School Freeware's Visual Basic Express 2010 Tutorials, Tutorial 1, Getting Started and the First Program. Visual Basic Express 2010 can be downloaded for free at Microsoft.com Express Downloads. Also at that website you'll find the Express editions for Visual C++, C#, Web Developer, Visual Studio for Windows Phone, SQL Server 2008, the older version of Visual Studio Express 2008, and Visual Studio Professional Trial Edition. The system requirements are as follows. You'll need Windows XP Service Pack 3, Windows Vista Service Pack 2, and both versions cannot be the starter versions. Also Windows 7, all editions will work. And finally, if you're using Server 2003 or Server 2008, you'll need to install Service Pack 2. For the hardware, you'll need 1.6 GHz processor, 1 GB of RAM. If you're running a virtual machine, you'll need 1.5 GB, at least 3 GB of hard drive space, a DirectX 9 capable video card, and a minimum resolution of 1024 by 768. The Express editions require registration after 30 days, and no financial information is needed for registration. The code used for these tutorials can be downloaded at schoolfreeware.com, and for users who are just starting programming, there are QBasic tutorials located on the School Freeware channel and on the website. Many users have found that starting off with QBasic and then migrating to Visual Basic tends to work out better for them than just starting with Visual Basic. So if you choose to do so, you can go ahead and take a look at the QBasic tutorials. This is Microsoft Visual Basic 2010 Express. The start page pops up automatically when you go ahead and run the program. If you do not wish for the start page to pop up, just unclick Show Page on Startup and this page will go away. So let's go ahead and create a program. So I'll click on File, New, and here I'll select the Windows Form application, which will allow me to program for Windows. You can type in the name if you choose here under Name for your project. If you forget to do so, that's no problem. You can name your project when you go ahead and save for the first time. So just click on File and Save All. And here I'm going to save into the Projects folder of the Visual Studio 2010, which is the default. And I'm just going to call it VB 2010 Tutorial 1. I'll click on Save. Next, let's take a look at the user interface. Here we find the standard toolbar, which includes things like Open, Save, debugging or running the program, and showing the different properties, toolboxes, and other dialog boxes. You can make modifications to the toolbar by clicking on View, Toolbars, and you can select which toolbar you want to use in addition to customizing the toolbars. To the lower left-hand corner of the toolbar, you'll find the toolbox. The toolbox right now is on Auto Hide. If I wish to pin so it doesn't go on Auto Hide, I just click on this pin, and now the toolbox is pinned to the window. Within the toolbox, we'll find things like our components for buttons, checkboxes, radio buttons, labels, picture boxes, timer, and other controls. If the box is accidentally removed, it could be brought back by clicking on the toolbox here on the standard menu. To the far right, you'll see the Solution Explorer, which again can be pinned down. And here we have the project and the form that we're using. Next is the properties of whatever happens to be clicked on. So right now we have the form clicked on. So here we have all the properties of the form. If I wish to make modifications to the form, I could go ahead and go over to the toolbox and add something like a button. Now that the button is active, the properties of the button show up. Within the properties, you'll find the event. So let's go ahead and take a look at some programming. I'll go back to Properties, and I'll resize this button here. And while I'm at it, I'll just go change the text of button 1 to say Hello World. And while I'm at it, I'll go ahead and change the font to font size 16. I'll just resize the button a little bit. There we are. And I'll go ahead and put in a label. So go to Label, put this in. Once again, I'll put the size to 16. And I'll double click on the button. The computer puts in a button 1 click. Whole pile of code. And I'll just go ahead and call label 1 dot text equal, and then within quotations, since I'm working with a string, hello world. Alright, I'll go ahead and run. Click on hello world, and there's my text. Okay, I'll close this down and make some modifications. I'll go back to the form 1 design. I'll resize the form a little bit. I'll go ahead and add a new button. I'll change the text to quit. And I'll change the font to font size 16. Now within Hello World, if you take a look at the events, the little lightning bolt, you'll see that button 1 click has been automatically added to click here. Within quit, instead of double clicking on quit, I can go into the events and then on click here, just simply double click and the computer will add the code for me. So here I can just put in close to close the form. And I'll go ahead and run. We have hello world, and quit will close that form. Okay, what I'll do now is I'll just go to debug and I'll go to build. And build will create the executable. So let's minimize this. I'll go to the location where I saved, which should be in my documents, Visual Studios 2010, and here within the projects we'll find Visual Basic 2010 Tutorial 1. Go to bin and release, and you'll find the executable application that we just created. So I can take this, move it off to wherever I wish, and when I run, there you see the program that we just created. So that's where you'll find your application.